My boss banned me from his promotion party. Then the CEO shocked everyone by calling my name instead. I found out I was banned from my own boss's promotion party at 9:12 a.m. while my coffee was still too hot to drink. The email sat in my inbox like a bruise. Staff party, Friday night, formal attire. Grant Myers' name was bold at the top. The guest list followed. Every name in our department was there. Every single one, except mine. I refreshed the screen twice, then checked the CC line again, like my eyes were lying to me. They weren't. My name, Angela Perez, was gone. My hands started to shake knowing what that party meant. It was for his promotion, the one built on the system I designed. I sat there smiling at my monitor while something cold pressed into my chest. After 23 years in this company, this was how I was erased. If you've ever felt pushed out of a room you helped build, hit subscribe now. This story is just beginning. By noon, everyone knew except me, or at least they pretended I didn't know. Chairs rolled closer together. Voices dropped. No one met my eyes. Finally, Melissa from accounting leaned over my desk and whispered, "Think you're being kind quiet. Angela, you're the only one who didn't get invited." I forced a smile so hard my cheeks hurt. "That's fine," I said. "I don't like parties anyway." That was a lie. What I didn't like was being invisible. My chest felt tight, like someone had wrapped tape around my ribs. I had worked nights, weekends, holidays. I wrote the code that fixed the shipping delays. I stayed late when the servers crashed. I trained the team Grant now took credit for leading. Melissa nodded, pity in her eyes, then rolled away. I stared at my hands on the keyboard. They looked older than I remembered. Maybe that was why. Older women were easy to overlook, easy to erase. At 3 p.m., the company bulletin went out. No warning, no meeting, just a bright banner on the internal site. Congratulations to Mr. Grant Myers, promoted to Vice President of Operations. My stomach dropped. There it was. His name, his title, his smile in a photo I knew was taken after my demo. I felt heat rise at my neck as coworkers clapped politely around me. Someone said, "Well deserved." Someone else said, "He really pulled that project together." I kept my face still. Inside, everything screamed. The logistics software was my idea. I built it from scratch, after they said the budget was too small. I tested it alone on weekends. I fixed bugs no one else could see. Grant praised me in private, called me solid, then walked into the boardroom without me. He didn't just steal my work.
He stole my voice.
I remembered the day of the big pitch like it was playing on a loop. I stood in the conference room with my slides ready, palms damp, heart racing. I explained how my system would cut shipping waste and save millions. The board nodded. They asked questions. I answered all of them. Afterward, Grant pulled me aside and smiled. "Great job, Angela," he said. "This is huge." A week later, he asked me to send him my files for formatting. I trusted him. I had trusted him for 5 years. When the board meeting came, I wasn't invited. Grant presented my work as a solution my team developed. My name never came up. I told myself it was fine. That results mattered more than credit. That my time would come. I didn't know he was already rewriting the story. I didn't know I was being written out. I waited until the office was quiet before I confronted him. Grant leaned back in his chair, hands folded like he owned the place, which, I guess, he thought he did. Why wasn't I invited to the party? I asked, keeping my voice calm. He smirked. Not smiled. Smirked. "Angela, you should be grateful you still have a job," he said. I made that happen. The words hit harder than shouting ever could. He leaned forward. "You're good at what you do, but you're not leadership material. And you get attached." Attached. To my own work. I stood there feeling small and furious at the same time. He had taken my ideas, my time, my future, and now he was telling me I should thank him. When I walked back to my desk, my hands were steady. My heart was not. Something in me shifted. I wasn't keeping my head down anymore. The next morning, the office felt different. Softer voices. Quick glances. People moved around me, like I was fragile glass. At the printer, I heard it. 2 coworkers didn't know I was there. She did all the work, one whispered. He just talks louder, the other replied. The words burned, not because they were cruel, but because they were true. When they noticed me, the talking stopped. Someone cleared their throat. Someone pretended to check their phone. No one said my name. At my desk, an email popped up from HR reminding everyone about professional conduct at celebratory events. I wasn't invited, yet somehow still warned. I laughed once, sharp and quiet. I had given this company my best years. Missed birthdays. Missed dinners. Missed chances to rest. Now I was a cautionary tale whispered near the copy machine. I sat up straighter. If they thought silence would break me, they were wrong. That afternoon, Carol stopped by my desk. She was older than me by a few years, sharp as glass, and still standing after decades in the industry. She leaned on the cubicle wall and spoke low. Angela, I heard about the party, she said. And the promotion. I nodded. She sighed. Keep your head down. This field is small. People remember troublemakers. I understood her warning. I really did. I nodded again, polite, grateful. But inside, something hardened. I had kept my head down for years. That was how he climbed on my back. After she left, I stared at my reflection in the dark screen of my monitor. I looked tired, older, but not weak. I opened my task list and added a new note at the bottom. One word. Proof. I wasn't going to scream. I wasn't going to beg. I was going to be exact. 2 days later, I was asked to organize archived project files. It was busy work, the kind given to people being quietly pushed aside. I didn't complain. I clicked through folders slowly, carefully. That was when I saw it. An internal email chain labeled Patent Draft Final. My stomach tightened. I opened it. There were attachments, legal forms, registration drafts. And there it was, clear as day. My system, my diagrams, my language. Grant's name was listed as the sole inventor. Mine was nowhere. I scrolled faster, breath shallow. Another email confirmed it. He had requested my name be removed before filing. Cleaner this way, he wrote. I leaned back in my chair, shaking. This wasn't ego anymore. This was theft. I closed the file and copied everything to a secure folder. Quietly, carefully. He had crossed a line. And he left fingerprints. That night, I met my old friend Lila for coffee. She worked in legal compliance and never wasted words. I slid my laptop across the table. She read in silence. Her jaw tightened. Angela, she said finally, this is serious. I know, I whispered. If you can prove authorship, and you can, this isn't just about him, she continued. The company could be exposed too. I looked down at my hands. They were steady now. What are my chances? She didn't hesitate. Strong. If you're ready to fight. The cafe buzzed around us, unaware my life was splitting open. I took a slow breath. I don't want revenge, I said. Lila raised an eyebrow. I want the truth where everyone can see it. She nodded. Then don't rush. Timing matters. I smiled once.
Cold. Calm.
I've waited long enough. I can wait a little more. Friday morning, an email landed in my inbox by mistake. I knew it was a mistake because it wasn't meant for me. Keep her off the guest list, Grant had written. She's a liability. No greeting. No hesitation. Just a decision about my worth. I read it twice. Then once more. Any doubt I had left burned away. This wasn't personal weakness.
This was strategy.
And now so was mine. Around me, people dressed up. Laughter floated through the hall. The party buzzed like a victory lap I was banned from. I closed my email and stood up. I walked to the restroom and looked at myself in the mirror. Gray at my temples. Lines earned, not given. Liability, I said out loud.
No.
I was evidence. And the night wasn't over yet. By Friday morning, the rumor moved faster than email. The CEO was coming. The real one. The man no one ever saw in person. People whispered his name like it carried weight on its own. A private investor. Old money. Sharp mind.
Grant walked taller that day.
He practiced smiles in reflective surfaces. The party had suddenly become more than a celebration. It was a stage. I sat quietly and listened.
Perfect.
If the CEO was coming, then truth would have a witness who mattered. I didn't need applause. I needed the right eyes. At lunch, I reviewed my files again. Emails,
Drafts.
timestamps.
Clean. Clear. Real.
I felt fear, yes, but it was smaller now. Focus pushed it aside. I wasn't going to argue feelings. I was going to show facts. Grant thought power came from being loud and seen. I knew better. Power came from timing. At 2:17 p.m., I accessed the archive system using my IT credentials. No rules broken. No alarms triggered. I pulled the original software build, the one I wrote late nights after everyone went home. There it was. My name. Embedded in the metadata. Date stamped. Immutable. I saved everything to an encrypted drive and backed it up twice. Then I logged out and wiped my access trail. Years in this company taught me how systems remembered and how they forgot. My hands didn't shake this time. Grant had assumed I was careless because I was quiet. He had assumed wrong. I looked around the office. People laughed.
Suits were pressed.
Perfume floated in the air. They were all heading to the party. I shut down my computer and slipped the drive into my purse. Proof wasn't loud. It didn't brag. It waited. That evening, I stood in front of my bathroom mirror longer than usual. I held my access badge in one hand and studied my reflection. He said I wasn't invited. I chose a dark blue dress. Simple. Clean lines. No sparkle.
I didn't need to shine. I needed to stand.
I brushed my hair back and straightened my shoulders. 23 years of being overlooked had trained me well. Tonight I would not shrink. I slipped on my shoes and paused. My heart thudded once hard. They can't stop you, I whispered to myself. Not anymore. I walked out the door with calm steps, like this was any other evening, like I belonged anywhere I decided to be. The hotel ballroom glowed with gold light and polished floors. Music floated softly. Laughter rippled. When I walked in, it spread. The quiet. Heads turned. Conversation stalled. I felt it like a wave. Grant saw me from across the room. His smile collapsed. Color drained from his face. I didn't look at him. I moved forward, steady, like I had every right to be there, because I did. No one stopped me. Security glanced at my badge and waved me through. I wasn't crashing anything. I was arriving. Whispers followed me, but I didn't listen. My pulse slowed. My breath evened out. This room had celebrated my work for months, without knowing it. Now it would learn. The doors opened again. The room shifted. The CEO entered quietly. Silver hair. Calm eyes. No rush. No show. Everyone rushed toward him. Everyone except me. I stayed where I was. His gaze moved across the room and stopped on me. Something flickered. Curiosity. Maybe recognition. He nodded once and walked closer. Grant began talking too fast, words tumbling over each other. The CEO didn't listen. He looked at me instead. "Good evening," he said. I met his eyes. Good evening. That was it. No title. No apology. No fear. Just two people standing still while everything else leaned in. Grant clinked his glass and stepped onto the small stage, his voice loud and smooth. "Tonight," he said, "we celebrate success built through teamwork." Teamwork. The word landed wrong. I felt it ripple through me, sharp and almost funny. I murmured it under my breath, slow and quiet. Interesting word, teamwork. People laughed on cue. Grant smiled wider. He talked about long nights, hard choices, leadership. He never once said my name. I watched faces instead of him. Some looked proud. Some looked unsure. A few looked down. I didn't interrupt.
I didn't react. I didn't need to.
Grant raised his glass higher, soaking it in.
He thought this was the peak.
He had no idea he was standing on the edge. As the applause faded, Grant's eyes found me. He tilted his head and smiled like a man in control. Angela here, he said, voice light, gets very emotionally attached to her projects. A few awkward laughs followed. Someone coughed. I smiled back.
Calm. Steady.
Emotion wasn't my weakness. It was his misunderstanding. He thought this joke made him look confident. It didn't. It made him look small. I sipped my drink and waited. Let him talk. Let him show who he was. The room felt tighter now, like everyone sensed something was off but couldn't name it yet. I didn't rush the moment. Truth works best when it's patient. Near the buffet, the CEO stood alone, studying the room like he was reading it. I walked over, my steps slow and sure. You're in development, correct? He asked politely. I nodded once. I said. I created the logistics system that saved the company $22 million last quarter. He froze mid-sip. I'm sorry? I built it. I repeated. Designed it. Wrote it. Tested it. His eyes sharpened. Grant said, I know what he said. I replied gently. I have proof. We stood there in silence. Music played. Glasses clinked. Then he set his drink down. Show me, he said. I didn't argue. I didn't explain twice. I pulled out the drive and showed him exactly what mattered. Timestamps, metadata, emails, clean lines, clear truth. He didn't interrupt. He didn't defend Grant. He just watched. When I finished, he nodded once.
Thank you, he said.
Then he turned and walked away, straight toward Grant. I stayed where I was. Across the room, I saw Grant's smile fade. His shoulders tightened. His hands moved too much. I turned away before it ended. I didn't need to watch him fall apart. I had already won the moment that mattered. The party continued, but the air had changed. People spoke softer. Laughter came late. I stepped outside into the cool night and breathed. Whatever happened next wasn't mine to force. I had done my part. Behind me, glass doors reflected light and movement. Ahead of me was quiet. For the first time in years, my chest felt open. Not light, not easy, but honest. Monday morning hit the office like a storm warning. A company-wide memo flashed across every screen at 8:01 a.m. All project leads are required to attend an emergency board review at 10 a.m. Chairs scraped. Phones buzzed. Faces tightened. Grant read it twice. I watched his jaw clench. He didn't look at me. I already knew what it was about. I had known since Friday night when the CEO walked away without a word. At my desk, I opened my notebook and wrote nothing. I didn't need notes. I had facts. As people filed toward the elevators, Grant lingered, straightening his tie again and again. His confidence had leaked out over the weekend. Carol passed me and whispered, "Whatever happens, I'm proud of you." I nodded. For the first time, I wasn't walking into a room to defend myself. I was walking into one that finally wanted the truth. The boardroom was quiet in the heavy way. Screens lined the walls. Coffee sat untouched. The CEO stood at the head of the table, hands folded. "Let's begin," he said. He tapped a remote. My code appeared on the screen. My notes. My timestamps. My name. A soft gasp moved around the table. This system, the CEO said, was authored entirely by Angela Perez. Grant's chair creaked as he shifted. "That's not what it looks like," he started. The CEO didn't raise his voice. "It's exactly what it looks like." Emails followed. Patent drafts. The request to remove my name. Grant's face went pale. His words fell apart. I sat still. I didn't smile. I didn't need to. Truth was doing the work now. The room felt smaller as the CEO turned toward Grant. "Your actions violate company ethics and federal law," he said. "This meeting is over." Security stepped forward. Not fast. Not rough. Final. Grant stood, shaking. "You're making a mistake," he said, voice thin. No one answered him. As he was escorted out, he looked at me for the first time. Not angry. Afraid. The door closed behind him with a quiet click that echoed louder than shouting ever could. I stayed seated. My hands rested flat on the table. Years of being ignored ended in seconds. The board members looked at me differently now. Not with pity. With respect. The CEO nodded once in my direction. Angela, please stay. For the first time in a long while, my name was said clearly in a room that mattered. The CEO met me privately that afternoon. No crowd. No noise. Just honesty. You were wronged, he said. And I intend to fix that. He offered me a choice. Compensation. Quiet settlement. Or leadership. I didn't hesitate. I choose leadership. He smiled. I hoped you would. He explained the path forward. Authority. Resources.
Trust.
I listened, calm and focused. This wasn't revenge. This was correction. Before I left, he added, you should have been seen years ago. I nodded. I see myself now. When I returned to my desk, coworkers watched me with new eyes. Nothing had changed on the surface. Everything had changed underneath. 2 weeks later, a new email went out, celebrating our new vice president of operations. My name was in bold. The same ballroom. The same lights. The same music. This time, the room waited for me. As I stepped inside, applause rose like a wave. Not polite. Real. I walked forward, steady, heart full but controlled. The CEO stood beside the stage and said my name again.
Loud. Clear.
Undeniable. I took my place and looked out at the faces that once looked past me. Justice didn't shout. It stood tall and spoke once. I walked into the ballroom slowly, letting the moment breathe. The lights were the same warm gold. The music was the same soft hum. But the feeling was different. This time, people turned toward me with open faces. Hands clapped. Some stood. I felt the sound in my chest before I understood it was for me. I had imagined this moment once, years ago, and then trained myself not to. Standing there now, older, steadier, I didn't feel small joy. I felt earned pride. The CEO nodded as I passed. Coworkers smiled, some with relief, some with awe. A few looked ashamed. I accepted all of it. I stepped onto the stage and waited for the room to settle. Silence fell easily. That was when I knew I hadn't just been invited back. I had changed the room itself. The doors burst open just as the applause faded. A shout slurred through the room. Angela. Grant staggered in, smelling of alcohol and anger. His tie hung loose. His eyes were wild. Security moved fast, blocking his path. I deserve to be here, he yelled. She stole everything. No one laughed. No one answered. The CEO leaned toward the head of security and said quietly, let him watch. Grant froze. He stood there, swaying, forced to see what he had tried to erase. The room didn't look at him. They looked at me. For the first time, Grant understood what it felt like to be invisible. I didn't say a word. I didn't need to. I stepped to the microphone. My hands were steady. Some people build their success on other silence, I said. I built mine on the truth. The words landed hard and clean. I talked about teamwork, the real kind, about credit, about integrity, about the cost of staying quiet too long. I didn't say Grant's name. He wasn't worth the sound. When I finished, the room stood. The applause was loud, long unforced. Grant was escorted out as clapping filled the space he left behind. I watched the doors close without regret. This wasn't about ruining him. It was about restoring what was taken from me. By morning, my phone wouldn't stop buzzing. Headlines rolled in fast. Employee exposes fraud at promotion party. Woman reclaims credit, becomes VP. The story spread across platforms I didn't even use. Strangers sent messages of support. Women thanked me for speaking up. I read quietly, letting it pass through me without changing me. At work, people spoke my name with care now. Meetings felt different.
Honest.
Grant's name followed a different path. Searches led to questions. Questions led to silence. Reputations travel faster than people realize. I didn't celebrate his fall. I focused on my rise. The CEO called me into his office that afternoon. I'm investing in your division, he said. Full control.
Staffing.
Innovation. I nodded, already planning.
We shook hands. Firm. Equal.
Within months, my team became the fastest growing arm of the company. We hired smart.
Fair.
We built systems that worked because people were respected. I stayed late sometimes, but by choice now. Power didn't change me. It returned me to myself. Grant didn't disappear right away. At first, he tried to pretend nothing happened. I heard through quiet channels that he applied for jobs across the industry. Big names, small firms, consulting work. Then the offers vanished. People searched his name. They read the articles. They saw the board decision. The questions came before interviews even ended. Can you explain what happened at your last company? He couldn't. Not without lying. And lies don't travel well. Within weeks, he became a warning story. Managers whispered his name the way they once whispered mine. I didn't feel joy. I felt distance. What happened to him was a result, not a goal. At work, I focused on building, on fixing broken systems, technical and human. Success felt quieter than I expected, but it felt clean. With my first bonus, I did something Grant would never understand. I didn't buy a car. I didn't upgrade my house. I created a scholarship. We named it the Teamwork Grant, for women in tech who built quietly and were overlooked loudly. When the announcement went out, messages poured in. Mothers, daughters, women who had almost quit. I read every one. This was the kind of impact I had always wanted. Not applause, but change. At the launch event, I stood beside young women who reminded me of myself. Smart, careful, tired of being patient. I told them, your name matters. Protect it. They nodded like they understood. Maybe they did. A month later, a magazine reached out. They wanted an interview. The headline read, "The woman who showed the world how quiet revenge works."
I smiled at that.
I talked about work, about proof, about waiting until truth had weight. I didn't talk about anger.
I didn't need to.
The article spread fast. People quoted one line over and over. Silence is only power if you choose it. I kept the magazine in my desk drawer. Not to admire, but to remember. I had been that woman once.
Quiet. Doubting.
Waiting for permission. Now, I didn't wait. Inside the company, things shifted. I promoted people who had stood by me. The ones who shared credit. The ones who spoke up when it mattered. I let others go.
Gently. Fairly.
The ones who laughed behind desks and stayed silent when truth needed noise. Balance returned. Meetings felt honest. Teams felt lighter. Work improved when fear left the room. One afternoon, I passed my old desk. Someone new sat there, focused, hopeful. I wished her well. The building felt different now. It finally fit me. Carol visited my office one afternoon. She smiled the way mentors do when lessons land. "You didn't keep your head down," she said. I laughed softly.
No, I didn't.
She nodded. Good. After she left, I stood by the window and looked out at the city. I was older now, slower in some ways, stronger in others. What I lost in silence, I gained in clarity. And clarity lasts. A week after the article came out, the CEO stopped by my office without an assistant. He leaned against the doorframe and studied the room like it told a story. "You remind me of myself 20 years ago," he said. "Ruthless but fair." I smiled. "I learned from the best," I replied. "My enemies." He laughed once, short and honest. We talked about growth, about people, about what happens when power forgets where it came from. Before he left, he said, "Don't lose this edge." "I won't," I said. And I meant it. After he left, I sat alone for a moment. I hadn't become hard. I had become clear. And clarity, I learned, was the sharpest edge of all. That fall, I stood on another stage, this one larger, brighter. Innovator of the Year. Cameras. Applause. I adjusted the microphone and looked out at the crowd. "If someone steals your light," I said, set fire to the whole room. The audience erupted. I didn't feel powerful in that moment. I felt complete. Every late night, every quiet dismissal, every erased email had led here. I stepped down to handshakes and smiles, but my thoughts were steady. Awards fade. Integrity doesn't. And neither does proof. That night, my phone buzzed with a message I didn't expect.
Grant.
You destroyed me. I stared at the screen for a long moment before replying. You did that when you erased my name. I blocked the number. Some conversations don't deserve a second sentence. If this story hit you, if you believe quiet truth always wins, hit subscribe now for more real revenge stories. 6 months later, I was promoted again. Chief Innovation Officer. The CEO introduced me as the future of this company. I didn't look back. The past had served its purpose. At my own celebration, I stood beneath the lights as applause filled the room. Behind me, the screen showed one image. My signature. My patent. My name. He threw a party without me, I said in the closing voiceover. I threw one he'll never be invited to again. And this time, the ending was mine. If you love this revenge story and want more just like it, make sure you're subscribed. There are plenty more to tell.